My mother was always fixing me up on dates with guys because she honestly believed that I would not be able to attract a guy because I'm very studious and serious. So I would come home from college on winter or spring break, and I knew what was coming, okay, because I've been down this routine with her many times. I would go slowly up the steps to my bedroom, and I would look at my pillow, and once again, there was that note. And the message on the note was always something like this. Hi, honey, glad you're home. I want you to know that at 6 p.m., so-and-so is picking you up. I know his mother. Love, Mom. But the thing is, I actually enjoyed going on these dates because they gave me a chance to test my intuitive assessments to see whether I were accurate. And I did get confirmation that I am very accurate. Not all the time, because we can all be fooled in love, right? But what really did bother me is that I don't feel my intuition as that gut instinct that most of us, understand that concept. And I had learned in college that your brain and your gut are in constant communication with each other, and they connect with all parts of your body. So much so that your gut is often called your second brain. But I don't feel my intuition there. I feel my intuition as a giant thud, as though I have walked into an enormous brick wall. And I just didn't understand why that happened to me. So for example, I'm on a date, a mother fix-up date, of course, and we're in a very, very fancy restaurant. And my date is doing this, waving to the owner of the restaurant, making sure that everybody knows how important he is. He calls over the head chef to bring his special dish. And he sends back every bottle of wine because it just didn't have the right year or wherever it was from. And that thud came right on to me. I felt it immediately, and I said to myself, this is not the guy for me. No way. This guy's going to need endless admiration. So I didn't go out on a second date. But I was still perplexed why I feel thuds and not my gut instinct. I'm grateful for the thud because it always tells me who's a dud, but I still didn't know the answer to that. So I put that in the back of my mind. You know how you do that sometimes. And I thought one day I would figure it out. So now, flash forward many years later, and I'm a licensed psychotherapist. And I'm doing research with hundreds of women to find out why so many of them are smart about work but not love. And in the workshops, we learned lots of things, including intuition. We learned, for example, that a lot of the women in the workshop felt their intuition in another part of their body. Some heard a voice in their head, and trust me, they were not crazy. Some felt their throat dry up or tighten. Some felt their heart beating really, really fast. And others reported that the temperature in their fingers and toes turned very cold. But regardless of where in your body you feel your bodily intuitive signal, it is your signature. It is as unique to you as your fingerprints. And your responsibility to yourself is to recognize your unique fingerprint. It is going to be your first step in really trusting and training your intuition. But I have to tell you, even if you don't experience your intuition in your gut, it is not the only reason that you can't trust your gut, especially when it comes to dating and mating. You can dismiss or miss your intuitive signal. So why would that happen? Well, first of all, you could dismiss it because you fundamentally just don't believe intuition is real. And even if you by a smidgen believed in it, it's too embarrassing for you to say, well, I just trusted my intuition. But neuroscientists now know that on the right side of your brain, inside here, it shows activation when you use your intuition. Now, it's very possible that that got developed because it was a survival mechanism, so that you could know when you were a hunter or gatherer what your instant sense of knowing was and what to do. Because in many ways, that's exactly what intuition is. It is a way of knowing instantly. So imagine you're a hunter-gatherer. You've got to know that an animal is charging at you and what to do. Or what if a person is coming at you and you've got to know whether they are friend or foe? But you could also miss your intuitive signals, even if you are absolutely in tune with your body. Now, why would that happen to you? You thought to yourself, oh, I know my intuition, I'm home free, but you're not. What happens is, you might know your body's responses, but you don't know what to observe in a person. There's so much information going on when you're in a date. How they talk, how they treat the wait staff, what their table manners are like. So in the workshops, we developed what we call filter to focus tips. Get rid of the information that isn't that important, so like a laser, you can absolutely focus on what is important. For example, when you're on a date, think about what kind of dog your date reminds you of. So let's pretend that the dog that comes to mind is a basset hound. They're sweet and very easygoing. And there's nothing wrong with being easygoing, unless that's the only thing that person can be. Because life has ups and downs. And if you're overly easygoing, you know what that often means? That you're not good with conflict or decision making. Now imagine that the dog that comes to mind is a hunting dog, confident, in charge. They don't need help from you. And again, there is nothing wrong with being confident or an in-charge person, unless there's someone who wants to take charge of you. Another filter to focus tip is, please, I know you want to put a best foot forward and give a good impression when you meet someone new, but I'm asking you, please put a real foot forward. Show some of your quirks that you're a little embarrassed to show, so you can get a real response from your date about a real aspect of you. Remember that movie When Harry Met Sally? And Meg Ryan, the actress, is going through all those fits of ordering her food, put this on the side, leave that out, la, 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 la. Well, if I put my real foot forward on a date, my date would see that I am hopelessly directionally impaired. So can you imagine my being the gal Friday in one of those 1940s and 1950s movies, and my detective boss is calling me on the phone at the office. And here's how it goes. LB, meet me on the southeast corner of First and Main. Pronto, click. Southeast corner? I'd be walking around forever. I mean, really, really forever. So when I went on dates with my husband, I made sure that he knew I can get lost in a corridor. Another filter to focus tip is to keep your excitement level down. Neuroscientist Tali Sharot teaches us your brain is hardwired for optimism. And when your excitement level is too high and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this person asked me out, I'm so excited, that can impair your intuition and boost your optimism, and you end up seeing what you want to see. It's called confirmation bias. But I have some other news for you. there are darker and deeper forces going on in you that can get in the way of your intuition being accurate. Professor John Barg has a whole lab where he studies cognition, decision-making, and intuition. And he says that your emotional state can get in the way of your intuition being accurate. So what do we mean by emotional state? I'm going to tell you a story about my client, Jane, name changed, of course. And as you learn how Jane learns, see if you can apply it to yourself. So Jane is 35, not married, and she wants to be married and have a family. In her own mind, she's the only old maid in the family. So now she meets Richard, and she feels instant comfort with him, chemistry, and she loves his easygoing nature. So they get married, and shortly into the marriage, Richard lost his job because the company he worked for closed the department. And what happened? He lay about the house for over a year and a half, and Jane divorced him. She felt very comfortable divorcing him, but she didn't know what happened. She thought he was that basset hound. But he turned out to be pessimistic, anxious, and very, very passive. So in the workshops, we learned all about the power of emotional states. And one of the prime emotional states to keep in mind is what's going on in your life when you first meet someone who you think you want to be with. And that's when a light bulb went off in Jane's head. And she said, oh my goodness, I was desperate, lonely, and I was willing to just grab the next okay enough guy. Think about what you bring to that emotional state when you first meet someone. Then Jane learned about the huge emotional state of the power of your family. And if you think that you're all done, all grown up, don't be fooled, because just remember this, you were not hatched. So how do you know what that emotional state is? The first thing you have to pretend is that your family is a ship. And in order for a ship to stay afloat, you've got to follow the rules. So Jane thought about that, and she realized her family rules were life is tough, the devil you know is a whole lot better than the devil you don't know, and bad things happen. And then another light bulb went off in her head, and she said to herself, oh my goodness, that's exactly what Richard's family is like. No wonder I felt comfortable with him. And he fits into my family. And that was not a very good thing for her. And then finally, Jane learned about the power of your emotional family role on that ship. Now, by this time, Jane knew she wasn't the captain, she wasn't the entertainment director, but she didn't know what she was. So this is the exercise we did to find out the emotional family role and that state that can affect you. So what we did in the workshops was everybody pretended that Martians, friendly Martians, abducted you out of your family, and as you're looking down at your family, to Earth, you're looking to see how they responded to you being gone. And that's when a light bulb again went off in Jane's head. She said, oh my goodness, they didn't even miss me. They didn't know I was gone. That's how invisible I am, she said. And once they realized that I was taken, they said, that's life, someone took Jane. And so now Jane realized that her emotional family role was a deck swabber. That's what she did, invisible. No wonder she felt comfortable with Richard. He was such a nice guy. So Jane understood her emotional states, and eventually she did choose very wisely. If Martians had abducted me from my family, and I looked down at Earth, my family would have turned a little cold, even a touch cruel, and they would have fallen apart. I was a source of nurturing and love, calm, and common sense. But interestingly, when I first met my husband, I had no chemistry, no attraction. He's optimistic, entrepreneurial, positive, takes risks. And then a light bulb went off in my head. Oh my goodness, he wouldn't fit in my family at all. My family is just like Jane's. And that's a good thing that he doesn't fit in my family. And then I realized, I don't fit in my family. And so I was able to figure that all out and feel chemistry and comfort for my husband and get married. So, learn, observe, take in the wonder and potential of you. We are meant to connect to ourselves and to others. And when you train your intuition to be accurate, you will make wiser decisions in dating, mating, and of course, love. Thank you.